Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to our Greenwood Diaspora Greenwood Monthly Town Hall. My name is DJ Mercer. I am the Descendant Coordinator. So, hello. Tomorrow, would you like to say anything?
Yo, good evening. Just happy to be here. Looking forward to a fantastic meetup and talk about our work on the legal front for justice for Greenwood.
Okay, and we have two other amazing faces right now. I'll give them a little bit of time to introduce themselves. Kate, would you like to go first?
Sorry about that. I do want to go first. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad that you're here. We are looking forward to sharing with you what's going on in our work. My name is Kate Ritchie, and I'm going to talk to you in just a moment about what we discussed last time, Mother Randall's birthday campaign.
And we have one more special guest, Miss Teddy Williams. You'll hear a lot from her, but I'll give her a few seconds just to say quick things about herself.
Hi, I'm Teddy Williams. I'm one of West Young's grandchildren, and I'm very happy to be here this evening.
Okay. So we can get started with the slides right now, Nehemiah. If you can pull it up for us, please.
Last time, Mother Randall's birthday.
There we go.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Nehemiah. In that video, it doesn't seem like you all were able to hear it, but you could feel the pain. You can see the destruction, and the tone of that video was that there was a huge atrocity that I'm sure all of you know about. And to this day, there have been no arrests, there have been no convictions, and no reparations, which brings us to our story today. Next slide, please, Nehemiah. We had businesses that were built over a lifetime, and they were destroyed in 24 hours. And 99 years ago, almost 99 years ago, and 75%, we're almost at 100 years, right? Hasn't been any reparations, any justice. So this is why we are here today. The Justice for Greenwood Foundation, we are seeking as a team, 1, financial compensation for the victims and their descendants, 2, criminal investigation into the crimes committed against Greenwood and its Black citizens, 3, we want to document, publicize, and forefront the stories of the massacre victims and their descendants. And lastly, we want the truth about what happened in 1921 to come out and be open to the public. And in order to continue that, we started a campaign for one of our survivors, and I'll let Kate tell you a little bit about what this great initiative that we and you all helped with. So thank you. Go ahead, Kate.
Hey, DJ, before Kate get going,
Yes,
can you make the slides? If Nehemiah can make the slides full screen.
If you hit play in the Google Slides video, that might help. But I will get started.
Go ahead.
Updating you all on the birthday campaign. So Leslie Randall is one of 2 known living survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. We talked about her birthday last month, if you were able to join us for the town hall, and we wanted 106 people to donate $106 to raise money to give directly to her for her birthday. We didn't quite hit that goal, but we did have about 40 people donate money to raise a little over $2,000 to be able to give to her to celebrate her birthday and let her know that the community is thinking about her and the community thinks that she deserves acknowledgement and, even just a token, just something to say that, we see her, we appreciate her sacrifice, her life and the trauma she went through back then and the incredible life that she has lived since then. So if we are able to I think we're having a few technical difficulties, but we'd love to share a video of Mother Randall opening up her birthday present from you all. So thank you to everybody who was, if you were able to give money, thank you. If you weren't able to give money, but you shared the post, thank you. So we want to just be able to see her and her reaction. And the video is on the next slide. Thank you, Nehemiah.
Says, oh, yeah. Can you see that? I can see the outside window. Yes, ma'am. What does that say? And there it is. That ain't right. Yeah. What does it say? It says, how much? All right. Wait a minute now. Wait. What it says? Kind of 2,000. It's like $186. Oh, that's what it looks like. I didn't know. Turn it around here so they can see it. You want to see it? Sure. Mm-hmm. Do I hold it like this? Yes, ma'am. Do I hold it long? You can. You just turn your picture up. You smile. Yes, you smile. What you gotta say? Thank you so much. That is for your birthday. We're praying. We're praying for this to happen, for this blessing to happen. And thank God. I want to thank God for going to hear who did it. And to everybody else. Thank you so much to my Father. Thank all the people. You want to thank everybody that did it for you? Everybody that contributed. Thank everybody.
Wow.
So I'm happy we're able to share that with you. As you can see, she is touched by your gift. So thank you again. And I just want to say that I think that video demonstrates and that campaign demonstrates part of our core mission at Justice for Greenwood, why it's so important to get justice for Greenwood. Mother Randall never received compensation from the city, not a penny. She's never received acknowledgement from any of the defendants who perpetrated the massacre, destroyed her childhood home, destroyed her community, and people that she loved. Nothing has ever been done. And so getting a movement of people, a community of people together to do things like Dr. Crutcher and many others helping repair her home, you folks generously giving to provide, a birthday gift, things like that are so important. Until we can get the people who did this to our survivors and their descendants, then we are doing it as much as we can for ourselves. And I want to thank you for that and encourage you to keep coming to these town halls and participate in the calls to action that we highlight throughout this call. I also want to take a moment to highlight, you see there on the screen, we've said 2 known living survivors. Another young lady, Viola Fletcher, is 106 years old. She's the other known living survivor. As very young children, both of these incredible women experienced an unspeakable event. And we're here to honor them and to keep demanding justice for them, for other people who are not around or allowed to speak anymore, and for all of their descendants in the community at large. So hopefully we'll be able to have Viola Fletcher on one of these calls moving forward, one of these town halls, so we can hear from her and highlight her life and honor her as well. All right, I'm going to hand it back over to DJ Mercer.
Thank you, Kate. That was very, very good, well spoken. And this is why we do this. We do this not for ourselves. We don't do this for ourselves. We do this for those who have not got justice, those who are still living with the trauma from 1921, who are living it to this day. This is not about us. This is about them. They have lived their entire lives with the belief that Tulsa doesn't care about them. And that's what Tulsa showed. But We know that there are people who care about them. We know that there are people who are fighting for them. And this is why we do it. This is why we are doing this today. And making sure that you all come into these events, making sure that you're sharing it, because we want to make sure that justice for Greenwood happens. And Nehemiah, could you go to the next slide for me, please? And please bear with us. We're having some technical difficulties. Technology, as you know, in 2020 has been a crazy year. So it just seems like 2020 is the gift that keeps on giving as far as technical difficulties. But some things that I do on the back end, I work at an elementary school as a school counselor. And when I see this picture, I think of the little kids that I work with. I think of the little boys that I work with. And they are growing up in a Tulsa and a Greenwood that is still burning. You can see it. You may not see the flames that have been burning. You may not see the burnt buildings anymore, but you can feel it. No matter where you go in Tulsa, you can feel it. If you're walking down Greenwood, you can see, I believe there's still a building up that had the bricks that were actually burned from 1921. A building is built by that. You can see it once you walk past the bridge, that this bridge and this highway was put directly through this community to make us and change our lives. You can feel it when you walk on OSU Tulsa's campus. You can feel it when you go to North Tulsa, the difference in the energy that is present, not only in North Tulsa, but even when you go south, the energy is just different. And that is not accidental. It is by design. Almost 100 years ago, the city of Tulsa and the wealthy elite of Tulsa made this happen. They decided to do it. And there's been continual harm to this day. It hasn't stopped. Greenwood is still burning. You may not see the smoke, you may not see the flames, but you can feel it, and you can see it in the decisions that have been made from Tulsa, the city of Tulsa, the people of Tulsa, to this very day. And you can see it in the North and South, the differences in North and South Tulsa. And we have a video that shows that. So once again, please bear with us as we work through these technical difficulties that have been going on. So in this video, I guess I'll just narrate, Nehemiah is talking about the differences that are occurring in North Tulsa and South Tulsa.
Grocery store.
About half of the city's Black population lives in North Tulsa, an area where 33% of the population lives below the poverty line. But just miles down the road, South Tulsa is more than 70% white and has twice the median household income.
Are there things that South Tulsa has that North Tulsa does not?
South Tulsa has better schools. Our schools are essentially school to prison pipelines.
It's a divide that dates back centuries, perhaps most vividly culminating in the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, when a group of white residents burned and destroyed the historic Greenwood district, more than 30 blocks of Black homes and businesses, commonly referred to as Black Wall Street. An area that is still being rebuilt almost 100 years later.
Does that 1921 race massacre still impact Tulsa today?
Yeah, it still impacts us. We never rebuilt. We never recuperated all the business that was lost. Looks like 1921.
That divide affects more than just the residents' livelihoods. It also affects their health. Studies show that residents in wealthier South Tulsa are expected to live 11 years longer than those in North Tulsa. Dr. Jabran Pasha sees huge disparities between his patients.
You grew up in North Tulsa, certain parts of North Tulsa, you're more likely to have a stroke. You're more likely to suffer from heart disease, to die at a younger age. And for any physician, that really should set some alarms off.
Alarms that many residents say should mark the beginning of a new era.
Tulsa is waking up, and I think that Tulsa wants to become one Tulsa and not the city of two.
Morgan Radford, NBC News, Tulsa.
I really like that video because it shows the differences of Tulsa, how there's different Tulsas, and how the city chooses to fund different parts of Tulsa. And there's an 11-year difference based on your geography. So you are more likely to live 11 years longer if you live a couple miles down the road. And to me, that is crazy and it's unacceptable, which is why we are doing this legal fight to make sure that Tulsa is equitable for all Tulsans, and specifically Black Tulsans, because we have not been getting what we deserve, and just human rights. This is a human rights violation. We just really want to make sure that we are trying to live and just be happy and just be general human beings. And the world and Tulsa is not letting us do that. So in order to talk more about the legal aspect of it, I bring in Demario Solomon Simmons. He is and to bring in a 1921 race massacre lawsuit update. This picture is from an article that was written by Christy Eaton of Ozzy.com. You all should Google that article, and I'm sure we can share it with you all after this show. So Demario, please take it from here.
I appreciate it, DJ, and good to talk to everyone. As we talked about earlier, I'm really excited to talk about where we are on this case. You know, they wrote this article saying laying the groundwork for reparations, but what's so wonderful about the case that we have, it's not an actual reparations case in the larger sense. It is a case based upon, if we go to the next slide, it is based upon Oklahoma law. It's not complicated. It's not something that has to deal with trying to figure out a bunch of different legal theories. These are theories or laws that are on the books right today that the city and the state of Oklahoma use successfully. We have two primary claims in our lawsuit. That is if we go back one, Nehemiah, we have the public nuisance claim, which simply says that when they destroyed Greenwood in 1921, they created a nuisance that hurt the health and safety and the well-being of the lives of those Black people that lived in Greenwood. And they have continued that nuisance each and every year to the very night that we sit here today. That nuisance is there. All you have to do is go down on Greenwood and see I-244 and you see the nuisance, or you saw the video. Then we have the unjust enrichment. Again, this is not rocket science. We're simply saying that there was property stolen from people from Greenwood, personal property that was worth a lot of money, that was land stolen from people from Greenwood, that those who stole it unjustly benefit from it. And additionally, right now as we speak, those same entities that destroyed Greenwood are now benefiting off the brand that they're selling, the brand of Black Wall Street, that they're benefiting and lining their own pockets. And while the descendants and the community continues to suffer. And that is why we're bringing this lawsuit. We go to the next slide. You know, real quickly, our defendants are, number one is the city of Tulsa. We know the city of Tulsa deputized the 2,000 whites at the courthouse. Next slide. Our second defendant is the Tulsa Chamber of Commerce. The Tulsa Regional Chamber, which is called now, but Tulsa Chamber of Commerce at the time. A lot of people don't understand that they had an integral role, not only into the massacre, but all the things that have happened since then. For instance, a lot of people don't know that it was the chamber that paid for the green cards that our people who were involved, who were interned in concentration camps. Not my words, Tulsa World wrote in 1921 on June 2nd, June 3rd, that Black people, over 6,000 were in concentration camps where they had to have a little tag to come out and go work for someone white or be enslaved and go and actually clean up Greenwood without wages. Next slide. Our third defendant is the Tulsa Development Authority. Now people say, well, why the TDA? They didn't even exist in 1921. Well, TDA just continued the work of the city and the county by continuing to unjustly utilize urban development, which we call urban removal, because they just removed hundreds of our people, destroyed businesses, homes. Even our own Mother Randall was a victim of urban development. They also were involved in taking the highway, where they specifically put the highway through the Black community. That was an intentional act to destroy Greenwood. Next slide. Another defendant, our fourth defendant, is the Tulsa Metropolitan Planning Commission. A lot of people have never heard of this organization, but it is a combination, or a partnership, I should say, between the city and the county. And this is the organization that decides those 30-year those plans, where they decide, what are we going to look like here in Tulsa for the next 30 years? We're going to make these decisions. So again, they were intricately involved with the city and the county in urban development, urban removal, the highway, but also making sure that Greenwood was starved of resources. A lot of people don't know that up until the 50s, there were many homes in Greenwood that did not have indoor plumbing. They did not have a lot of paved roads in the Greenwood area. That was all intentional to try to cut off the black people and make sure that there would not be another Black Wall Street. Next slide. Tulsa County. We know that the sheriff was involved. We know the county officials were involved. We know that the county allowed or made a way and worked with the city to falsely indict many of our leaders who had to flee as exiles. People like the Strasfords, people like the Smithermans, people like O.W. Gerling. These were some of the primary leaders, the most wealthy, the most educated members of the Greenwood community that were, if they were not killed like Dr. A.C. Jackson, they were exiled away, never to come back, leaving behind fortunes, leaving behind legacies. And to this day, the county has not done anything to rectify the nuisance that they created. Next slide. We cannot forget about the sheriff's department, not the current sheriff, but the sheriff's department. They were involved in the melee. They were involved in looting, destruction, and killing of our people. Next slide. And of course, we have to bring in the Oklahoma Military Department, which is the National Guard. We know the National Guard should have had a mandate to protect the men, women, and children of Greenwood, but they didn't do that. They participated with the mob. They mowed down the defenses of our brave men like Peg Leg Taylor and Obie Man, who were protecting the community for over 12 hours until the National Guard came in with the heavy machine guns and also the planes dropping bombs. And that allowed the mob to pour into Greenwood and over the next day or so decimate the 36 to 40 blocks in Greenwood. So those are our defendants. Next slide. It's very important that you understand, what are we asking for in this case? What are the things that we need to make sure that we can come back and repair the harm that's been done? Number one, we want a victims' compensation fund to pay all outstanding claims. We know for a fact that there are millions of dollars in outstanding insurance claims that were made to the city, claims that were made to the county. Those claims, we know who is owed the money. We know how much they were owed at the time in 1921 dollars. All we have to do is, you don't even have to have a math degree, a mathematics major to understand. We just update the dollars, what it would have been worth in 1921 to today, and you make those payments. In that victims' compensation fund, where do you get the money from? Well, we get the money from those who created the harm. That's the great thing about the public nuisance case. It's no specific dollar amount. It's simply saying, what does it take to actually fix the problem that is at hand, whatever that number may be. The state of Oklahoma asked for $17 billion from Johnson & Johnson. The court gave them $550 million. But just last week, the state of Oklahoma came back and said, look, we think that needs to be increased to $9 billion because it's going to take us 20 years to fix this problem. That's the same process that we're going to take. We're going to have experts come in, explain to us, what does it take to fix this systemic problem so our people don't continue to live 11 years shorter, so our people don't continue to our roads be full with potholes, so our school children can have an opportunity to actually not have to have decrepit buildings and books and terrible technology. Those are the things that this nuisance created, because at the time before Greenwood was destroyed, our people had what we needed. We had the finest of the finest because our people had resources, they had know-how, and they had a freedom mind state. We also want a creation of a scholarship fund for massacre descendants, or descendants of those who were victims of the massacre, I should say it that way. This is a fund that will be specifically for those individuals who are descendants of those who suffered the harm, period, point blank. We want 100-year immunity from Tulsa city and county taxes, fees, and utilities. We don't think this is a heavy lift. We simply say, hey, as DJ stated, for the last 99.9 years, you have owed these people millions and millions and millions of dollars. You have not paid it. You've only made their lives worse. And at the same time, these people have paid into the system. They pay utilities to the city. They pay their property taxes. They paid other fees and utilities fees and fines and whatever to the city. We say if you are a descendant of someone who suffered a harm in Greenwood, you should be immune for all city and county taxes for at least the next 100 years. And if it takes us 2 years on this lawsuit, or 5 years, or 10 years, whatever the time period that it takes for us to get justice, that should be the time period that we should be immune from taxes. Now, if you think that makes sense, put a justice for Greenwood in your comment box. We want to stop the defendants from financially benefiting from the Greenwood Rising Center. Now, let me be very clear about this. We do not believe that the city, the county, the chamber, or any other defendants that created the harm, that destroyed Greenwood, or continues the massacre to this day, that they should receive any money that comes from people that go to the Greenwood Rising Center. They shouldn't receive any tax dollars. They shouldn't receive any revenue. We are asking that some of that revenue be earmarked for the Victims' Compensation Fund. We believe that that revenue should be utilized to build up the Black community. It should be utilized to pay back the harm that was done to the people that suffered in Greenwood. Again, this is just a really common sense proposition here. If you agree with that, hit me with a justice for Greenwood. We want to have the court stop the defendants from utilizing the names, the likenesses, the photos, and the stories of those who they killed, who they ran out of town, who they burnt down their businesses, who they cut off their legacies, who they forever exiled from their homeland, their hometown. We don't want those individuals to be able to utilize these stories and narratives and photos for free. If you're going to utilize it, and you need to rightly compensate those who you are actually benefiting from. And if you don't know who to compensate, put that money in the Victims' Compensation Fund so it can be spread out to the community. One other thing that we want that's not on this list, we want land redistribution. The thing that made Greenwood available, so powerful, the thing that made Greenwood so unique, the thing that made Greenwood so wealthy was the land ownership. Our people own 36 to 40 blocks, 4 square miles. Today, Greenwood is half a block. Think about that, from 40 blocks to half a block. So if you're going to talk about remedying a nuisance, you have to talk about redistributing some land. And if you can't redistribute the land, then you need to pay the fair market value of the land that's now so valuable because it's right in downtown. When you come across I-244, and it's shameful, you come across I-244, you see all the cranes in the air, you see everyone, all these big businesses. These businesses are not owned by African Americans. These businesses are not owned by descendants of those who perished, those who worked so hard to build up their land, build up their businesses. Yet it's others who are actually benefiting from the fact that the people that originally owned the land was ran off and killed, and therefore they got the land in a way we would consider to be unjust, period, point blank. Next slide. Next slide. So again, the things we're asking for, I'm sorry, go back to the latest case updates, Nehemiah, for me. Yeah, there you go. Good deal. Good deal. So as you can see, the remedies that we're asking for make sense. They're common. They're easy. You can understand them. It's not some complicated arithmetic here. It's simply saying, what is it going to take to get Greenwood respect, restitution, and repair? Say that with me. Respect, restitution, and repair. That's what we want. Put that in your comments. Post that. Respect, restitution, and repair. That's what we want. That's what we deserve. And we will get that through this legal case. We will get that because all of you who are here tonight is going to continue to be with us, continue to push this narrative, continue to donate to this legal defense fund, and continue to put pressure on the city and the county and others to do the right thing. Now, what is the latest update on our case? The defendants filed we filed our case in September. They filed their motion to dismiss, saying our case has no merit, that we should be thrown out of court, that we should never be repaid anything. They don't owe anybody anything. This is ridiculous. You waited too late to file. All these things they're saying, at the bottom line, they're saying, we don't care that we know what happened. We don't care. We know who it happened to. We don't care that we have the money to fix it. We're not going to do it, period. But we don't believe in them. We believe in justice for Greenwood, and we're going to continue to fight. So what we're going to do, we have to file our response to their motions to dismiss, and I think it's January 21st or maybe January 24th. And we're prepared there, my team, and I'm so proud to work with such an amazing team of lawyers and academics and community organizers and descendants from all around the nation that are pouring in their time and energy and their ingenuity and their education, pushing for Greenwood. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of such a dynamic team. We're going to file our document. It's going to be fantastic. We don't make the decision. The judge makes the decision. But I can tell you right now, we think our case is strong. We think we're going to win that motion to dismiss. We think we're going to continue to move forward, and we're ready to get into discovery. We're ready to get to these documents, and we're ready to prove that the nuisance continues to this very day. And we're ready to prove what it takes to get rid of that nuisance, or in legal terms, called abatement. Next slide, please. If that sounds good to you, I want you to hit me with a justice for Greenwood. Now, the question we get all the time, what about descendants? What are your role in this deal? In the legal case, DJ is going to talk about what the foundation wants to do with descendants. But from a legal standpoint, your role is very key and important, because it is through you that you help us to prove the continual harm. How do we prove that? We need to know any and everything you can tell us about your family, what your family lost, who was killed, who was lost. Because, people like Otis Clark, who was 109 or 110 when he passed away. I spent many years with Otis Clark. We called him Dad Clark. Some of the things he talked about was he was 18 years old when the massacre happened, and he remembers everything. And he just said, I never saw my stepfather again. He said he never saw him again. He doesn't know if he was killed. He don't know if he was exiled, but he just never saw him again. He said, I never saw the old couple across the street to Talbot. They were an old couple in their 80s. He never saw them again. Can you imagine that? Just one day you never saw your neighbors, your family members, anything, you never saw them again. We need those stories. We need to understand how that has impacted your family's history, trajectory over the last 99 years. We need the information that you have, that urban development came in and cheated you out of your land, or cheated your family out of their land by paying pennies on the dollar. Or some cases, we've been told by our descendants, literally being run out of their house under the threat of violence. We need to know that information. We need to understand if you have any of your insurance paperwork, or any of your claims documents that you made to the city or the county or your insurance company, because we want to use that as evidence. And it's critically important that we have a clear understanding of the emotional, psychological, and mental trauma that is passed down through your family over these last 99 years. As we get into court, we have to have actual evidence, and you can provide that for us. So as I've looked to wrap up my legal update, I just want to tell everyone, we will get justice. We've been fighting on this deal since when they started invading us. Those men stood up there and fought that mob as long as they could. You had lawyers like B.C. Franklin that filed lawsuits right after it happened. You had people like Don Ross and Senator Maxine Horner and many, many others fighting to get reparations to the state. You had so many community activists, people that have been pushing this issue. We will continue to fight, because that's what Greenwood is about. It's about people that was willing to fight for what was right. It was about people that was willing to put in the work necessary to build a community, build wealth, build self-esteem. That's what we will do. We will have justice for Greenwood. If it's this year in the 100th year, or if it's 100 years from now, we will never, ever give up justice for Greenwood, justice for Greenwood, justice for Greenwood. DJ, I really yield to you.
I just wanted to clap for a little bit because that was beautiful. Can y'all sense the fire in this man? He's not only from Tulsa, he's a North Tulsan. So North Tulsa stand up, representing, fighting for Greenwood. He's been in the fight for as long as I've known him. He's probably been in the fight for as long as he didn't even know he was in the fight before the fight. So let's get a justice for Greenwood for the fighting the good fight your whole life, DeMario. Thank you for that. Just want to clap it up for that. So we're going to transition, and I would like to talk about a guest who I had the lovely chance to interview, Teddy Williams. And before I go into her and talk about her, I want to acknowledge some descendants that I've talked to. Saeed Jami, I see you're in here. Maureen Scott, Barbara Barrows, I see you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Teddy, let me introduce you real fast. Teddy, she has her MLS, she has her BS, she has her RN. Basically, all these letters means that she's very smart. She's a nurse, and she's a community health educator, and she's a medical and malpractice expert. And she's going to talk to you all a little bit about her story, as well as who her amazing ancestry is.
Thank you
Teddy,
so very much, DJ. I really appreciate it. A couple of things about me. I've been a nurse for about 28 years. I'm also a community health nurse, as well as a community activist and community activist. What I can tell you is that my grandfather, our grandfather is such a great person to us. He was about 4 years old when the massacre happened. We are also descendants of Janie and Mabel Young, our great grandmother and our great aunt. We also had some other descendants as well. We're learning about that, and we've learned about that over the last 10 years or so. Nonetheless, it was my grandfather who instilled in us and taught us initially about the massacre when we were probably about 7 years old. The one thing that I can say about him is the thing that made him most special is that Pop always kept his word. Not only that, but he was a community advocate himself. In fact, the things that we're asking for at this particular time, repair, restitution, and respect, is something that he probably gave more to Tulsa than Tulsa ever gave to him, just to be quite honest with you. My grandmother and my grandfather were president and vice president of Brady Heights Association. So take Brady's home, the mansion on Denver, is something that was able to be restored and repaired as a work of a descendant and someone who survived the massacre. So at this point in time, what justice looks like for not only us, but for you in particularly, individuals who are listening in, and you're definitely descendants, what it looks like is what it looks like for Japanese Americans, what it looks like for Native Americans, what it looks like for every other entity of people who received reparations from this country, from the state. That's what justice looks like for us. So scholarships, definitely. Land, absolutely. Tax exemption, definitely. Because this is the thing that continues to go on. It's the harm, it's the emotional harm, it's the physical harm, it is the lack of health equity. In fact, I work at the University of Oklahoma College of Medicine at the time when the studies and when we developed those studies of the 10 to 11 year difference in life expectancy and mortality between North Tulsa and South Tulsa. So I know a little bit something about that as far as the health equity side of it, because I was in on those meetings. And not only that, but I was there and I built several things while I was there. But what I say to individuals who say, well, parks and monuments and more museums, that's what reparations should look like for Tulsans and for myself, for other descendants, survivors, such as Mother Randall, and our other survivors, because we only have a few left, just two. That's not enough. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even scratch the surface. In fact, Mr. Ross and others were able to give us the Greenwood Cultural Center. Okay. However, in years since that, should we have more monuments? Should we have more parks? I would say this, only if they are increasing or creating jobs, the number of jobs that were plentiful during that season of Black Wall Street. At this point in time, no one can hand me a sheet of paper and help me to understand if the things that were there before, economic development, economic prowess, hence the name Black Wall Street, any of those things are present and plentiful today in Greenwood. The answer is no.
Thank you, Teddy. That was beautiful and well spoken. Wes Young would be so proud, and I know he's proud of you right now, talking about his story, talking about yourself, but also, just talking the talk and walking the walk. We all could talk, right? But it's harder to put the footsteps to the words. And you, as a descendant, that's why we wanted to put you on the spotlight right now, is because you walk the walk and you are continually fighting, and we appreciate that, and we are glad to have you on the team.
Thank you so very much. The one last thing that I would like to say about my grandfather is that he wasn't just a survivor. My grandfather spent many nights dreaming, waking up out of his sleep about the smoke and the soot that was in his eyes as a little boy. He grew up, as we know, again, to create equity in his neighborhood, that of Brady Heights. And I want to say that the name has changed today. He was also a soldier. Pop was a World War II veteran. So not only did he serve his family, serve his wife, serve his nieces and nephews, whom he loved dearly, his grandchildren, his children, he served his community. And at this point in time, again, he's done more for his community because Brady Heights continues to have National Historical Registry. And because of that, that's one of the reasons why no one is able to build anything right down Denver, is because of what he was able to give to a city that just didn't give back to him.
And what a legacy he left.
No question.
What a legacy he left. So thank you for sharing, Teddy. Those are the descendants I haven't talked to yet. Please send me an email at dmercer@solomonsimmons.com so that I can learn your story as I talk to Teddy, as I've talked to several other descendants. If you are a descendant, please reach out to me at dmercer@solomonsimmons.com so that we can learn your story, so that I can talk to you, and so that we can get you into the fold and just learn more about you and your family's history. Right now, we're going to transition to questions, and you do a little Q&A session. Next slide, please, Nehemiah. So if you have any questions, please type it out in the box, and then we will be able to answer those questions whenever possible right now.
Well, I did see one question in the stream earlier. Someone was asking where they could find that video from that we played earlier about North and South Tulsa, the divide. That's an NBC News video. If you Google Tulsa's dividing line, it comes right up. If you want to find that and watch it or share it on Facebook, that's where you find that.
They can also go to our Facebook page, or it's also on our Facebook page. Also, Kate, I should say our Facebook, the Justice for Greenwood Foundation Facebook page. I just want to say something real quickly about Mr. Young, because I also got to spend many, many years with him and travel back and forth with he and his lovely wife, Mrs. Young, Catherine. And we went to DC several times also with Teddy. And he was a lovely man, and he was focused on justice for the community. He would tell me personally all the time, hey, I'm an old man. I've lived, it's not much this is going to do for me, but I really want this for my children, my grandchildren, and our little community. He would always say that. So, Teddy, I just appreciate you talking about him. And I look forward to hearing these stories from everyone's relative, because all these men and women have tremendous stories. Other thing I want to do before any other questions, I want to recognize one of the lawyers that are on the case, Brother Maynard Henry. I see him in the chat. Brother Maynard is a lawyer out of Virginia, and wanted to be on this case, been working in racial justice for a long time, and I appreciate him. Also want to shout out Christy Williams, who you see in this photo right here to the right, right next to Dr. Turner. She's been out there on the front line. She's also does the real Greenwood Black Wall Street tour that tells the truth about what really happened. And so definitely look that up and take that tour if you had not. So with that, if any other questions, I'll definitely be happy to answer any.
Demario, there's a question up right now from one of the descendants that I've talked to, Barbara Barrows. She wants to know, what do you want us to do with the documents we find? For example, land documents.
I would like you to send those documents to us, preferably make copies. Anytime someone sends in documents, I always say, you want to make copies, keep whatever originals. And if we need the originals, we can get those. But yeah, we want to get that information in. And you can send that information to, DJ at dmercer@solomonsimmons.com. We're also, at the beginning of next year, we're also going to have another portal ability for you to be able to actually upload those documents even easier. So yeah, we definitely want to see that. And listen, this is what I always tell potential clients, people that are witnesses. I don't want you to decide if it's not relevant or not. Let us make that decision. If it's something you think, man, this may help us, send it in. We are very blessed to have a team of folks that are dedicated to reviewing this information. And we can know real quickly if it's something that can be helpful. But I don't want you to say, I don't know what this is. It could be a picture. It could be a letter. I mean, the things that Mother Randall's given us have been amazing. She actually had letters from the 1920s. And just through talking to her over the last, over a year, I didn't even realize she was a victim of urban renewal until just a few months ago. So the conversation is good. That's why we want to have these virtual meetups or town halls or whatever you call them now. DJ's a millennial, so he said he called them meetups or something like that. That sounds like something different in my generation, but we're just moving forward from there.
To follow up, Demario, Barbara Barrows wants to know if electronic documents or hard copies. I'm guessing it's electronic documents, so like a scan or a picture, something along those lines.
Whatever is easiest for you, Barbara. We don't want to put a burden on you. If it's easier for you to make copies of it and send it in to us, that's great. If it's easy for you to just scan it all in and upload it, we actually can send you a link and you can just upload it to a link. So DJ or Kate can get with you offline and get that information from you. Thank you so much, Barbara.
Kate, I believe you had a question. You got a question, correct?
I do. And thank you, Barbara, for those great questions and for being here and being involved. We appreciate you so much. So I have a question. As everyone may not know, but Demario, DJ, Teddy, no, I'm not a lawyer. So I just wanted to ask some follow-up questions. You talked about where we are now, that we are confident, or that the lawyers that you work with are confident that that motion to dismiss, that you will be successful. And then you mentioned something. You said the next stage in the legal process is discovery.
Right.
Can you tell me what that is?
Oh, absolutely. I can definitely do that. I want to recognize one of our other plaintiffs, Eloise Price Cochran, is just joined us. So it's good to see you. Yeah. So discovery is the process where we can actually get documents from the defendants, emails, letters, reports. We know that there are reports that go back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, where they're talking about, let's get rid of Greenwood. Let's make sure we don't have nigger town anymore. Excuse my language, but that's how they talked about Greenwood. This is how the Tulsa World actually wrote about Greenwood, that we should never allow nigger town to happen again. That type of language. We know those documents exist. We just need access to them. We know those reports exist where they're talking about scheming on land. We know that stuff exists. We just need access to it. And that is what the defendants do not want us to have access to. We want to be able to decide. We want to know who the individuals that participated in the massacre. Who were they? Like literally, like who were they? What were their names? And what did they steal? We believe that somewhere there is documents showing everything that was looted out of Greenwood, because you always got to remember, Greenwood was a wealthy place. They didn't just burn down, they stole first. And just like our dear brothers, the Jewish brothers, they continue to fight and find things that were looted and stolen from them by Nazis and others going back to the 30s and the 40s. They're still hunting that stuff down. We feel the exact same way. You know, there was a case that a couple of our legal team members were a part of where OU had a painting that was stolen from a Jewish family in the late 30s. And OU had the painting in 2017. And that family somehow figured out that that painting was at OU. Guess where that painting is now? That painting is back in France, where it was from. And so that's the same type of mentality that we have. And we believe through discovery, we can figure those things out. We can do depositions, and we can make sure we can understand. Like, for instance, on one end, the mayor of the city, G.T. Bynum, says that the 1921 is the cause for the divide in Tulsa. But on the other hand, he says, oh, he doesn't believe that reparations or restitution is a good thing because it'd be too divisive. I would like to have an opportunity to have a conversation with him under oath to find out why he feels that way. So those are some of the things that Discovery is about.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. It looks like we have a couple questions in the hopper. Reggie Mays from Hornets United.
All right, Big TW, that's what's up.
Any tips for researching records related to urban renewal? I mean, my first instinct is, you know, a lot of those things folks are finding in just personal papers, things that their family had around the house, just, you know, documents that were internal or private to the household. Do you have any thoughts on where somebody might go to do any kind of official research?
Yes, this is a fantastic question. Thank you, Reggie. If you believe that your family, as you're saying, Reggie, were victims of urban renewal, if you will get us the names of your relatives, we can do an open records request to TDA asking for their records. Now, they may not want to give it to us, but we can fight about that. But if we know the names of your relatives who were victims of the urban renewal, we can request that information. That would be very, very helpful. You know, we can see exactly what happened, what land was taken. Again, I use Mother Randall as an example because we have her documentation. Her home and her family had the home for over 65 years until she was basically swindled out of it and paid pennies on the dollar. That land is worth millions of dollars now. It's right next to downtown. It's some big business on that land. And we say, look, she should be getting the benefit of that, or her family, because that was her family's land that was taken because of the unjust nature of using urban development.
And I'm also going to appeal to you guys who are watching, who are chatting in, things of that nature. Please, please, please do not give up a couple of things. One, your voice, and two, your vote. You have to put pressure on these people. My grandfather was staunch about keeping his word, as well as being very involved in the community, very involved in city county meetings, things of that nature. Please let your voice be heard on the things that you don't like and you don't care for, because that's the only way that we all are going to be able to benefit from the things that we're doing. Do not, and keep everybody and hold everyone accountable. Have a big shindig coming up. Make sure you hold those people accountable to what they do in your community for you on your behalf without your input.
Yeah. Hey, we only have a few minutes left, so I'd like to make sure we get through the next couple of slides before we have to shut down here at 7:30, and then we can answer any questions. You can always email us. You can always go to the justiceforgreenwood.org page and get at us. So, DJ, if you'll move us so we can make sure we finish out on time.
Absolutely. Nehemiah, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So thank you for attending, but we also want to do and say a big, huge thank you to Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, who isn't with us today, but she, as well as the Terrence Crutcher Foundation, made an $1,000 donation to the Justice for Greenwood Foundation. And we want to thank her so much because she's one of us. She fights the fight. She doesn't just talk the talk. It's not just wordplay. She actually puts actions to her words. And we want to thank her and highlight her. If you have her email or if you know her on Facebook, just tell her thank you. just say a big thank you, because $1,000 will go a long way for us in helping us fight the good fight. So thank you, Dr. Crutcher, as well as the Terrence Crutcher Foundation. Next slide, Nehemiah. And what you all can do, we know what Dr. Crutcher has done. What you all can do, we can do a couple things. One, you can donate to the Legal Defense Fund at justiceforgreenwood.org. The second thing you can do is sign up to volunteer at justiceforgreenwood.org. And thirdly, you can use your social media and share the latest post on the Justice for Greenwood Facebook page with the hashtag Justice for Greenwood. Just even sending out the Justice for Greenwood hashtag is critical. We want people to show that we are still fighting. We are still here. Greenwood is still burning. We have not given up, and we will not give up. Thank you all for coming today. If you all have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, my email at dmercer@solomonsimmons.com. Kate, did you have something?
Yeah, I just want to say, if everybody could go right now while you're on your computer, thank you so much, DJ. Those action items are great. That one action item about sharing the post that's up right now on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Greenwood is still burning. If you will share that right now with the hashtag Justice for Greenwood, share it in your Instagram story, share it as an Instagram post, share it as a Facebook post, retweet it. Whatever you use the most, wherever you think it will make the biggest impact for your network, we need more people, more of your people and our people that are a part of this community effort to be involved and to spread this message. So
you want us to do that absolutely, like right now. So everyone just do it. Before we get off this call, you're saying everyone right now, go to the Justice for Greenwood Foundation Facebook page and share the latest post with the hashtag Justice for Greenwood. So we're asking everyone to do that right now. And when you've done it, drop Justice for Greenwood in this comment. And while we do that, I want to recognize our state representative, Regina Goodwin. I see that she's just joined us. She is a bold Black woman fighter for our community. Her family has been in the community for decades and decades. In fact, if it was not for the Goodwin family, we wouldn't even have the buildings that are now still on Greenwood. We appreciate Representative Goodwin. She stands with and on behalf of the community at all times. And as she's placing her comment, they gave our people like Wes Young medals. And that was the biggest slap in the face that you could have given them. Now, those people like Wes Young and Otis Clark and Dr. Olivia Hooker, they would never say something like that publicly, but Teddy would tell you that was a joke. That was a joke, wasn't it, Teddy?
All I can say is Google me.
All right, good deal, good deal. Well, let's see if anybody else is going to hashtag Justice for Greenwood before we jump off here. I see some people saying sharing is easy. That's right, it is easy. That is
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Dr. Kevin Ross, another frontline soldier that's been on this work for many, many years. Thank you, Marquise. I appreciate it. Y'all keep sharing Justice for Greenwood. Keep holding people accountable. Keep fighting for Mother Randall. Keep fighting for Mother Fletcher. Keep fighting for our community. Keep fighting for yourself. Justice for Greenwood. Justice for Greenwood. Justice for Greenwood. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario.